Big video today, everybody. I'll give it that few minutes to let people log on. Very, very important talk to have here as Jason Kenney, Premier in Alberta, challenged the carbon tax in the Supreme Court and got his butt handed to him. If you go on my Facebook timeline, I nail it nearly word for word. And we're going to go through that today as reporters are still questioning him. And I know where those questions are going to go. And we're going to go through that now in real, absolute law that I can back up by the world's best of the best. Jason Kenney can't back up nothing. Neither can the federal government for that matter. But we're going to go through it in tremendous detail right now. As I told you also already over a year ago, and now it's information today. We're going to go through it as I see everyone's logging on, why this is so important to share. So, in our Constitution, our very limited codified Constitution, there are two pieces to the Constitution, federal and provincial. There's many sections, but these two are very, very specific for every Canadian. 1, Section 91, 2, Section 92. Both those sections outline the absolute power of both the federal and provincial governments to administer taxation by any modes, means necessary that they choose in those jurisdictions. Resources. They say that's a provincial jurisdiction, hard fought and won, especially for the province of Alberta, as many provinces were granted that in Confederation upon joining, however not Alberta. Alberta had to fight really hard, Saskatchewan as well too. We won our rights to our resources here in Alberta on a tremendous, tremendous fight. And do you know where that fight took us to? It took us to the Supreme Court. It took us to all superior courts. And you know what? Beyond that, it took us to Lieutenant Governor and Governor General. Lose, lose, lose. Finally win. Finally win. Why? Because the world was about to enter a big period of change. The end of colonization. The end of League of Nations for sure. And we hit the end of League of Nations. Alberta had a strong for the people premier of the time, Social Credit Party, who kept fighting even though it was no, 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 and boom. Not only did we win our rights to our resources, we also won the Bank of Alberta ATB, only one of its kind in Canada, and you will only also see that in the United States with only one other state. There are only two regions in all of North America, besides Mexico. If we push Mexico out, you're going to look at just Canada and USA. It's only two regions. Won by absolutely fighting the Crown colonial system again and again until they broke. They broke. But will that work now for carbon tax, for Jason Kenney? The answer is no, 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 because he's part of the problem. He's part of the problem. We repatriated in 1982. We've cemented the power of federal Ottawa to create taxation by any modes, means necessary. And their justification for carbon tax, like other colonial nations in this world, is that through environmental, global security, national security, your nation can't function, even though we carbon capture naturally far out exceeding any nation on this earth just by our sheer size and absolute forestry. We carbon capture. There should be absolutely no carbon tax in Canada, period, whatsoever. It's called socialism and wealth transfer. Now, Conservative Party, they're not conservative, they're just called the Conservative Party, everybody. They have a big administered carbon tax scheme to transfer the weight of the tax onto you, all the people, so that your utilities will rise way up to here, and on every product you buy, equaling Justin Trudeau, Or you can take Justin Trudeau's carbon tax. Now, Jason Kenney knows this. He lies to every Albertan and Canadian today. He says Rachel Notley expropriating that power. The federal government knows that when it comes to resources, the province could actually do a carbon tax. However they wish to spend that money, there's no codified constitution, just the federal. So NDP chose to expropriate the money for provincial coffers and spend it however they felt because there's no codification. That is absolutely wrong too. However, at least if you're taking money from Albertans, you can at least spend it on Albertans. The other way, the federalist way that Jason Kenney says you're not going to spend as much money is an absolute lie. All of your carbon tax goes into Confederation, and very small, minute amounts go out to municipalities in UN agenda agreements through the federal government, if honored. There's no one-size-fits-all, because again, there are no rules in governance for your politicians. They can spend it in whichever municipalities or whichever region of people inside Canada they deem. So Jason lied to you, but he lied to you because his friend Aaron O'Toole wants to appropriate all that money for the CPC. They've already made a 427-page document where all of Western Canada must transfer its carbon big emitters tax into Eastern Canada, predominantly to be spent in Toronto, not even Quebec or other areas. It's predominantly in Ontario or Toronto. Sorry to have to tell everybody that. I'm only repeating what's exactly written in Pierre Poilievre's document, signed by Pierre Poilievre and published now today. Absolutism of CPC and their policies going forward. Liberal conservative, there is no difference except for which foreign interests are ultimately going to receive the money. Because under both plans, Canadians, it is not you or your enterprises that are going to be involved in this. It's all foreign governments, foreign economies that are trying to sell this to you so that their industries get a major footprint in your country and you're buying from them. That's the reality. 100% easily traceable and hard for any politician in any of the mainstream parties to say that's not true, because the facts are presented. This is reality. We know who's doing what, manufacturing what, where, and it's clearly published in global economics, in supply and value chains. You see, Jason Kenney works for Aaron O'Toole. He swore an oath of allegiance to the Crown, which is Prime Minister. He will support federal Ottawa over Alberta, which is against the position that he is sitting in. Absolutely. He is officially the worst premier Alberta's ever had. Rachel Notley is right in there in second place under NDP. But realize at least her socialism principles were to return the money to Albertans. Under Jason Kenney, the money goes to his federal counterparts to be spent in Eastern Canada. More centralization, more reference to colonialism, more crown power. Do you think Alberta First Nations will see any major improvements? Only if they eat the federal stick. If Aaron O'Toole's in power. Otherwise, Justin Trudeau takes it, he spends it as he sees fit, mostly in the big cities, key demographics to keep himself in power. Jason would rather see Justin Trudeau re-elected than see the people of Alberta see some kind of resemblance to any kind of equality in Confederation. This should alarm all of you. The Constitution, as limited as it is clear, very clear. I've outlined this lots of times. Now world experts will be outlining this for all Canadians. It's sad to see my own province getting just raped over the coals because you've an elected federalist a pure colonial power, a man sworn to a Privy Council to uphold the federal system. That should be outlawed in provincial constitutionalism right across Canada. Your identity, your province's autonomy should always be first, Confederation second. We work as a unit, like the USA, like Russia. It's terrible, it's sad. Most of the world doesn't operate like this anymore. It's only the colonial leftovers, Canada being probably the worst today. Just on Indigenous peoples alone, it's absolutely the worst. There's no reconciliation coming because federalism is taking stronger and stronger holds, abusing all the regions of Canada. That means 10 provinces, 3 territories, and absolutely underneath that, the Indigenous people of Canada are all being grossly abused by absolute foreign interests. One of the worst examples today, 2021, in the entire world. Now, there are some African states still in there. There are some issues with Middle East states. However, it's a little bit different, as I'm working really hard today to finish my publication for Oxford, and we're going to go into international law as it really is and how you can apply your country to this one paper and get a real reference to what rate you apply with. How do you function on the world stage? Canada, you're way down here on a scale. You're way down here. Abused so badly, so out of touch with the rest of the world, and we just keep eating it. We have to change. Most of the world is changing. That means constitutionalism. It means following world-binding law as it is, not how your politicians try to abuse you into thinking that this is normal. There's nothing normal about it. I think we can now look that it was the Supreme Court, limited by the federal government through Governor General, absolutely made their decision based solely on the express consent of Prime Minister with his Governor General, who is also the Chief of Justice right now. If you don't know what King's Court is, you should know now. This is gross, disgusting perversion of a world that's supposed to be outlawed absolutely in 1960, was done for Canada in 1952, and many nations since the end of World War II have already completed this process, or at least are amending broken systems stolen like Canada has from King George. He died abruptly in 52 after freeing Canada in 52. But he didn't finish decolonizing, taking the embedded colonialism, that crown power, out of the Canadian Constitution. Governor General, Lieutenant Governor, Privy Council, absolutely the entire Senate, as it's designed, as it's classified, and how it's appointed. That is all colonial power of a crown, long since gone, but still there for all your greasy, filthy politicians to steal at will from the people, take from you all of your rights, take away all your say on governance. There is no nation within a 3,000-mile radius of us today, anywhere you are in Canada, that will compare to that kind of abuse. It's very, very undemocratic, Canadians. It has to end. We have to do that. That means a federal vehicle. It means mandating the provinces, for the first time ever in Canadian history, to have constitutions, provincial constitutions, so that regions are protected because they're not UN states. They're subject to a UN state called Canada that runs on embedded colonialism over all its regions, illegal in this world. You want to figure out how to fight this? It starts with provincial constitutions. Codification by the people, for the people. This is what has to be done. Or people like Jason Kenney will only become more common and get stronger and stronger until literally billionaires are running Canada with no rules, absolute foreign agendas, and you're all slaves. We will be a China, as China is going through its new globalist imperial phase. Imperialism has always been China for 4,000 years. It has existed in imperialism. That's reality, Canadians. They're learning to focus that into globalism. It's culturally embedded in them to perform like that. How are you going to fight that when you yourself are even a step worse because you're embedded colonialism from that imperialism? A dark, dark spot in world narrative that China went through too. They were abused too. They fought back, some of which they won. Now they're much stronger than they were. But there's a 150-year period of China, literally almost 250 actually, but in large scale, a 150-year period of China fighting back against colonialism and imperialism of the European attack. You know, it's crazy. It's crazy where all the world's been and all of these nations and where they went, and now they embrace to do it again. Whereas Canada sits literally in a time period that is supposed to be outlawed in this world. How are we going to move forward? We never will. Our Supreme Court will never ever function any way reasonable to any kind of common man or woman. It's never going to be. Not with the embedded colonialism. We have to end it. CCP, the Canadian Constitutionalist Party. End all the corrupt premiers. Put rules of codification in so they can't betray the province that they were elected to represent. To strengthen what limited codification for the province is there should be the mandate of every premier. But we don't have any codification for that. Premiers can mandate anything they want. There are zero rules for any premier in Canada. Very little rules for a prime minister. And prime minister has that crown authority to say, let's negotiate, pal. So all of you watching today, Premier Jason Kenney made a deal with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Absolutely. To take away from Alberta to give to the rest of Confederation, because that's a better idea than to admit that he was wrong. He would rather grab and embrace the Liberal Prime Minister and sell Albertans down the river in Confederation than ever admit he was wrong and he doesn't know what he's doing, because there's no constitutional rules of government, and a high school graduate has no business running or monopolizing any government, let alone a province. It's pathetic. Constitutionalism, Canadians. Let Alberta be an example for the rest of Canada of what not to do, not where to go, and not what kind of person you elect. Never elect a Privy Council member ever. Ever, ever, ever in a million years. Otherwise, you're destroying your country. You're basically taking your region with no power of UN state or international law to protect you and give it to nations, some of which, everybody, absolutely have the overriding authority in this world to do to you whatever they want. And there's nothing any other nation can do in your defense. Don't believe me? Just look at the Michaels. Bye now, everybody. That's my video. Get it shared out. It's important. Bye now.